We need bolder talent aiming higher, Brian explained, sliding termination papers across the polished conference room table. The company's moving in a new direction. My name is Darren McCabe. I'm 46, and I spent 9 years as a senior account manager at Truvant Corporation in Kansas City, Missouri. Nearly a decade building a client base that generated about 40% of the company's revenue. No tricks, just long days, constant travel, and relationships rooted in trust. I smiled, thanked them for the opportunity, and left without argument. Brian Elsford arrived 6 months ago as the new VP of Sales, brought in by the CEO to re-energize the team. He wore tailored suits, spouted tired motivational cliches, and never once joined me on a client meeting. 3 weeks after he started, he introduced a new commission structure that cut my income by 20%, despite my consistently high performance. The signs were there. During an office renovation, my desk was moved to a corner. My name vanished from meeting invites. Yesterday, I noticed someone servicing my computer during my lunch break. Small things. Small things not worth mentioning, but enough to sense something brewing. I packed 9 years into one cardboard box, family photos, a mug my daughter painted, and a client contact folder I kept separate from the company's database. Just a habit. "Need help?" asked Valeria from accounting. She looked genuinely surprised. "Moving to a new office?" "Something like that," I replied, avoiding a scene. In the elevator, I stood next to Everett Stanton, our CEO. He nodded without looking up, engrossed in his phone. He didn't know what Brian had just done or how it would hit the quarterly forecasts, but he'd find out soon. Walking to my car, I felt no anger, just a strange clarity, like waking from a long, comfortable dream to realize the house was never yours. I drove home in silence. No calls, no radio, thinking about tomorrow. My phone buzzed as I pulled into the driveway. Travis Hricks, my biggest client. Our annual contract renewal was next week. He texted about booking a dinner when he came to town. He didn't know yet. Nobody did. I set the phone on the kitchen counter, unanswered, and stared out the window. 9 years of client relationships built on my word and reliability. Brian didn't just fire an employee today. He severed the only thread tying Truvant to millions in revenue and didn't even realize it. I joined Truvant when it was still Midwest Financial Services, before the rebranding and downtown office. Everett hired me personally, poaching me from a competitor where I hit targets but got passed over for promotions. "I need someone who knows this market, someone clients trust," he said. For 7 years, he wasn't wrong. I grew the client base from regional firms to national accounts, extended contracts from 1 year to 3 and 5 year terms. Landed Lockhart Manufacturing after they left our biggest competitor. Brought in Henderson Group when no one thought we had a shot. My wife, Rebecca, joked I was married to my clients. "Another dinner with the Johnsons on Thursday?" she'd ask, already knowing the answer. My kids got used to me missing their games and concerts. Dad's working became their normal. I promised it would pay off someday. 3 promotions, 2 office expansions, and 1 economic downturn later, Truvant grew from a $4 million company to a $30 million enterprise, with my accounts bringing in about $12 million. Nobody crunched the exact percentage until Brian arrived. The first red flag came at a quarterly review 3 months into Brian's tenure as sales head. "Your client acquisition pace has stalled," he said, pointing to a chart showing I'd added only 2 new accounts that quarter. "Because I'm focused on strengthening existing relationships," I explained. "The Lockhart contract just doubled." "The future's in new business," Brian insisted. "We need hunters, not farmers." A week later, my assistant, Julia, was reassigned to another department. The next month, my travel requests started needing extra approvals. Expense reports came back with questions. Small things. A death by 1,000 cuts. I started hearing rumors of interviews with new talent. Young MBA grads with aggressive pitches and no industry experience. Brian called them innovators. Last month, he hired Alicia Winters, 29, from a tech startup. Her first week, she was assigned to shadow me on a call with Travis Hricks. No explanation, no proper introduction, just to see how it's done. Travis noticed. After the call, he texted, "Who's the new girl? They setting you up to be replaced?" I brushed it off. just expanding the team. But driving home that night, I felt something tighten inside. A gut instinct honed from years reading subtext in boardrooms and client faces. Something was off. I should have trusted that feeling sooner. I set the cardboard box on the kitchen counter and poured a bourbon. The house was empty. Rebecca was in Denver for the week, helping her sister with a newborn. Probably for the best. I needed silence. I opened my personal phone and scrolled through contacts. 9 years of relationships, over 200 clients, vendors, industry connections. People who trusted me with their business. People who signed with Truvant because of me, not corporate marketing or the flashy downtown office. My work phone, now powered off in the box, held only official correspondence. Dinner invites, golf games, personal numbers of CEOs and decision-makers. All that was here, on my personal phone. Information built from being the guy people wanted to work with. I took a sip and felt an odd calm. No panic, no dread about the mortgage or insurance. Just a clear understanding of what happened and what came next. The bourbon burned my throat. 9 years of 60-hour weeks, missed family dinners and kids' games. 9 years building something I thought was mine, only to learn it wasn't. I opened my laptop and reviewed my employment contract. The non-compete clause was limited. 1 year, and only for voluntary resignation. Termination changed everything. No legal barriers to moving clients to another firm. My phone buzzed again. Travis confirmed the dinner reservation for Thursday. Looking forward to discussing the contract renewal. I stared at the message. Travis Hendricks represented $1.7 million in annual business for Truvant. His company, Lockhart Manufacturing, had been with me for 6 years, plus 3 at my previous firm. Nearly a decade of trust, and he wasn't alone. Henderson Group, Westfield Properties, Carlton Industries. Together, another $1.5 million. All had contracts expiring in the next 30 days. All worked exclusively through me. I set the glass down and made a decision. No calls tonight, no angry emails, no threats. I'd sleep, wake with a clear head, and make exactly 3 calls. Not to vent or complain, but to inform my closest clients I was no longer with Truvant, effective immediately. The rest would unfold on its own. I pulled the family photos from the box. My daughter's graduation, my son's wedding, a Yellowstone trip we nearly canceled over a client crisis. I'd missed too much. Tomorrow, I'd start choosing differently. I finished the bourbon, went upstairs, and slept in the empty house. For the first time in years, I didn't set an alarm. No early flights, no dawn quarterly reports, just a quiet confidence that Brian Elsford had made a catastrophic mistake. All I had to do was step aside and let it play out. The next morning, I made 3 calls. No drama, just facts. Travis, I'm no longer with Truvant as of yesterday. Wanted you to hear it from me. His response was instant. What happened? Who's handling our account now? Likely Brian Elsford will reach out, or maybe Alicia Winters. A long pause. That girl from the meeting? She doesn't know our business. That's all I can say. It's your call. Similar conversations with James Henderson and Peter Carlton. No hints, no recruitment pitches, just information, delivered with the same reliability they'd come to expect. By noon, my personal phone was buzzing nonstop. Other clients had heard. The industry was tight. At 2 p.m., Everett Stanton called. I let it go to voicemail. Hey Darren, it's Everett. We need to discuss your departure. Some clients are raising concerns. Call me back ASAP. I didn't call back. Instead, I drove downtown to meet Lawrence Finch, a labor attorney. 3 years ago, I helped his son-in-law secure funding for a restaurant. He owed me. They can't stop you from working, Lawrence confirmed, reviewing the termination papers. But they'll try to scare your clients from following you. Be ready. By 4 p.m., Truvant's legal team sent confidentiality reminders. By 5, Brian texted, "Let's discuss your exit package. There might be a consulting role." Too late. At 5:30, Travis texted again. "Just finished a call with your CEO and that VP who fired you. They promised stability, said Alicia would personally take over, then offered a 10% discount to renew." "What did you say?" I asked. "That I'd think about it." He continued, I sent a termination notice, citing the change in account manager. Henderson and Carlton did the same. I stayed silent. Darren, where are you going? Because wherever you land, our business is going with you. That night, 3 more companies from my portfolio sent Truvant termination notices. By morning, 8 firms, over $3.2 million in contracts, had pulled out. Everett called an emergency board meeting. I knew because Julia, my former assistant, texted me, "It's chaos here. Brian's trying to pin it on you for poaching." My phone rang again. Unknown number. "Darren McCabe," I answered. "Michael Grantley, Grantley and Company." A competitor. Smaller firm, better reputation. "Heard you're free. Some mutual contacts speak highly of you." "I'm listening." "Senior VP position, 6-figure signing bonus, full autonomy over accounts, a seat on the executive committee." "When do you want me to start?" "How about tomorrow?" I agreed on the spot, not out of haste or desperation, but because it was exactly what I wanted. Respect, autonomy, and recognition for the value I bring. That afternoon, Brian texted again. "Board approved a retention package. Full salary for 6 months plus stock options. Just help us transition your accounts." I didn't reply. There was nothing to say. They had 9 years to value what I built. Now they were scrambling to put a price on it after the fact. Too little, too late. A week later at Grantley and Company, Julia called me from her personal number. "You need to know what happened. It wasn't just Brian wanting his own people." I sat in my new corner office, bigger than Truvant's, and listened as 9 years of history rearranged into a clearer picture. They were planning to sell the firm, Julia explained. Veritas Capital made an offer 2 months ago, but with conditions. They wanted to bring in their own key account managers, integrate them with portfolio companies. The pieces clicked. Brian wasn't hired to boost sales. His job was to shift accounts away from me, making them company assets, not relationships tied to one person. My firing wasn't about performance. It was prep for the deal. "How do you know?" I asked. "I'm still in the executive suite. I see the documents, hear the talks. Yesterday, they withdrew the offer. Veritas won't buy without the client base you built." I sat still for a long time after the call. 9 years of loyalty, and they were ready to cut me out like a middleman, not because I failed, but because I succeeded too well. The relationships were too strong, too personal. They had to remove me before the clients could be packaged as corporate assets. I opened my laptop and checked my email. More former clients reached out. The industry was buzzing. Darren McCabe moved to Grantley, and clients are following. Truvant's stock dropped 12% in 5 days. Everett emailed, "Can we meet? Just you and me, no lawyers." I didn't respond right away. The betrayal settled in my gut like cold lead. Not just fired, sacrificed for a corporate game. I called Travis Hendricks. "I need to ask something. Did Truvant introduce you to anyone from Veritas Capital in the last couple of months?" A pause. "How'd you know?" "They brought some guy, Thomas, to our quarterly review. Said he was a strategic consultant studying the industry, asked a lot about our future needs." Confirmation. They were parading Veritas reps to my clients, laying groundwork for a transition while I was still there, still believing I was building something vital. Other calls revealed the same pattern. Meetings scheduled behind my back, information gathered, relationships tested for weak spots where I could be replaced. By day's end, I confirmed at least 6 of my major accounts had been quietly introduced to Veritas reps under the guise of strategic consultants. I finally replied to Everett, "No meeting needed. I fully understand the Veritas situation." His response came fast. "It was a business decision, Darren. Nothing personal." But it was personal. 9 years of building relationships, knowing clients' kids' names, their vacation spots, taking calls on weekends and holidays, reduced to a hurdle for a corporate deal. I closed my laptop and looked out at the Kansas City skyline from my new office. The view was different, cleaner. Grantley had already signed contracts with 11 of my former clients, bringing nearly $5 million in annual revenue, and that was just the start. Not because I recruited them, but because in this business, trust follows people, not logos or corporate strategies. Truvant didn't just lose a salesperson. They lost the foundation their growth was built on, and they still didn't get why. 3 weeks after joining Grantley, I was invited to speak at the Midwest Financial Services Conference. The panel topic: Building Client Loyalty in a Transactional Market. The irony wasn't lost on me. I accepted, not for ego or publicity, but because I knew who'd be in the audience. Industry peers, potential clients, and, crucially, Truvant's remaining leadership. Everett never missed this conference. Neither did the board. Grantley gave me resources Truvant never did: 2 analysts, marketing support, and, most importantly, an equity partnership. Every client I brought wasn't just a commission, it was part of something I partly owned. For a month, I prepped for the conference, not with flashy slides or rehearsed stories, but with data. Working late with analysts, I compiled metrics for every client who moved from Truvant to Grantley. The results were undeniable. Average response times to inquiries dropped 53%. Onboarding costs fell 30%. Client satisfaction rose 22 points. This wasn't just about me. It proved what happens when companies value relationships over transactions. The morning of the conference, I reviewed my notes. No bombshells, no accusations, just facts and results. Professionally measured, devastatingly clear. Entering the hotel ballroom, I spotted Everett chatting with 2 board members by the coffee station. His face tightened when he saw me. I nodded politely and walked past. The panel started with standard questions about market trends and tech disruptions. When my turn came, I spoke directly about what clients truly value. In an era of automation and digitization, personal accountability is the rarest commodity. Companies often mistake client relationships for corporate assets, I said. They're not. They're trust agreements between people, requiring constant reinforcement. I shared the data without naming Truvant, just case studies of clients who switched firms and saw immediate improvements. The lesson isn't in retention packages or contract locks, I concluded. It's in understanding that if you treat relationship managers as interchangeable parts, clients will show you how wrong you are. During the Q&A, a young analyst I didn't know asked the question everyone was thinking: your recent move from Truvant to Grantley with several major clients, isn't that the scenario companies fear when deciding how much autonomy to give account managers? The room went quiet. I felt Everett's stare. Good question, I said. But consider the flip side. Truvant didn't lose those clients because I took them. They lost them because they didn't understand what those clients valued. Nobody followed me out of personal loyalty. They left because their needs were better met through my approach to service, which my former employer decided no longer fit their direction. I paused, briefly meeting Everett's eyes. Every company's free to change course, and every client's free to decide if that serves their interests. The market's brutally efficient that way. After the panel, 3 more ex-Truvant clients approached me. By the conference's end, Grantley signed letters of intent with 5 new accounts worth $2.7 million in annual revenue. That evening, I checked the financial news. Truvant announced a restructuring. Brian Ellsford was pursuing new opportunities. The Veritas Capital deal was officially dead. Their stock dropped another 8%. I closed my laptop without satisfaction or triumph, just quiet certainty that the market proved me right in the most convincing way. The lesson was delivered. Whether they'd learn it was no longer my concern. 6 months after my firing, I stood in Grantley's largest boardroom, surrounded by my team and company leadership. A slide behind me showed quarterly results: $8.4 million in new business, 70% from ex-Truvant clients. Michael Grantley raised a glass. To the best acquisition we ever made, and we didn't even have to buy a company. Polite laughter filled the room. I smiled but didn't join in. For me, it wasn't a win, it was validation. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Truvant Corp announces CEO transition. Everett Stanton steps down amid ongoing revenue challenges. I slipped the phone into my pocket, showing no one. Some victories don't need an audience. Later that day, I got an email from Alicia Winters, the young woman Brian tried to position as my replacement. I was let go along with most of the sales team. Any chance Grantley's hiring? I forwarded it to HR with a note. Worth considering. Not her fault. Leaving the office, my assistant handed me a courier-delivered envelope. Inside was a handwritten note from Everett Stanton. You were right. I prioritized the deal over relationships. It cost the company everything. If you ever want to grab coffee, I'd like to apologize in person. I folded the note and tucked it into my jacket. Maybe someday. Not yet. That night, driving past Truvant's building, I saw them removing the sign from the facade. A local business journal reported they were relocating to a smaller office in the suburbs. I didn't slow down or take a picture, just kept driving, eyes on the life I'm building on my terms. Exactly 1 year after Brian handed me those termination papers, I signed final documents making me a full partner at Grantley & Company. The firm grew 34% since I joined. My client portfolio now generated nearly $20 million in annual revenue. I closed the partnership folder and looked out at the Kansas City skyline from my office window. Same buildings, same city, but everything else had changed. Rebecca walked in with 2 coffees. Signed and official, she said. I nodded. Signed and official. She sat across from me, studying my face. You don't look as happy as I expected. Just thinking about Truvant, I said, shaking my head. About what I'm building here. About getting it right this time. That morning, I approved hiring 3 new account managers, all with the same profit-sharing structure I negotiated for myself. Nobody here will build something only to have it taken away. That was my first move as a partner. My phone buzzed. Travis Ricks, about the partnership. Congrats. Knew you'd land on your feet. Thanks to clients like you, I replied. No, he corrected. Thanks to who you are. We just followed the value. After the call, I picked up a frame Rebecca gave me last Christmas. A simple quote on parchment. The best revenge is massive success. I set it back on the shelf, face down. That chapter's closed. I opened my calendar and booked lunch with Everett Stanton. Not to gloat or rehash the past, but because sometimes the final step to moving forward is letting go of the weight of what was. I shut down my computer, grabbed my keys, and left to meet Rebecca. We had tickets to our son's band performance, something I wouldn't have made time for in my old life. Some losses clear the way for better wins. Some fires burn away what needs to go. I've never been more certain of that than I am today. So, friends, that's the end of the story. For me, when I faced a similar issue, I worked myself to the bone in an office, barely seeing daylight. But later, I found myself in a new field, and I'm genuinely happy for our hero. Drop a comment. Where are you tuning in from? Don't forget to subscribe and leave an awesome like. Thanks, and see you in the next story. Bye for now.